everyone, happy Fresh Look Friday. Today I am going to be answering a question that I would get all the time from my family and friends when they would come over. They would ask, how do you get your living room to look like this? And I think what they were really asking is, how do you get everything in your living room to just kind of match like that, to go together? And the answer is actually simple. It's a little tip that I learned in my years of working with interior designers. And while I'm not one myself, it is something that I've carried with me into every single room of my home today. And it's really helped to bring every single room together. I'm gonna share that with you today. So the first thing I always recommend you do when you walk into a space is to think about what your vision is for that space. Do you really want to have a seaside, beachy room like I did here? Or are you someone that really wants it to be kind of warmer, darker, fall tones? Is that your favorite season? Maybe you want everything to be bright and crisp and clean. Everybody has a different feel that they really want for their home, and it's one that you can find just by looking at different Pinterest or inspiration boards. Kind of go on there, and if you have no idea where to start, pin a bunch of rooms that you like. And you'll start to notice when you go through, like, all of these rooms are really rustic, or they're all really Nordic, or they're all really modern. You'll start to get a sense for what you really like. And one thing that I want you to look for when you're scrolling through that feed is, is there a certain color that's popping out to you? This is really important because when it comes to your next question, right? The next thing that I'm going to ask you is, what are the 3 colors that you want to use in this room? Picking the rule of 3 is that #1 tip from the designers that I've been talking about. But here's the thing, you have to stick with it. That's the challenge of the rule of 3, is that if you have something that you're like, oh, well, I love this, I got it as a gift from a friend, and I really want to put it up in my living room, but it doesn't match your scheme, I'm sorry, you need to find another room. And no one's gonna tell you that. People are gonna be like, hey, if you really like it, just put it up, it's your house, do what you want. And that's true, and you can do that. But if you start bringing things into the room that don't match your color scheme, then you're gonna wind up coming back and looking at everything at the end when it's all done and being like, wait a second, does this really go together? And I've done that, and I've been there, and I've tried to squeeze things in to make them work, and it just won't happen if you're not gonna just use that rule of 3. You really have to stick with it. For this room, the 3 colors that I went with were a teal, white, and beige. Now, at first I was kind of iffy because I was like, white and beige, are those really gonna clash with each other when I put them next to each other? I really wasn't sure. But the reason why I wound up choosing that color, well, there are 2 reasons. One was because we are renting right now and we love our place so very much, but the walls are a beige color that I really was not sure how to match with things. And the second is we were gifted this beautiful painting that's right behind me. I fell in love with it the second I saw it. And then I thought to myself, okay, I had a lot of white and teal going on in this room. How do I work in the beige? And that was where I started to kind of connect the dots and realize that if I specifically picked out beige pieces to go with everything, it's all gonna come together, but you really have to be committed to that color. So I'm gonna go around the room and kind of tell you how I picked every single piece, because when you have that rule of 3, you have to pick your main color, your secondary color, and your accent color. So for us, with the room being beige, that was going to be an obvious big primary color, right? That was gonna be kind of setting the tone for the room. And while I wasn't in love with it at first, I quickly learned that it was a very warm tone that really made our space very, very welcoming. And I really didn't have an option if I wanted to keep the things that, I loved, and unless I wanted to paint this whole room, which my husband was totally not down for, then the beige was gonna have to stay. So what I did was I picked my secondary color, and that was really easy. I love a beachy theme. I'm a beach girl at heart. You can see it on the necklace that I'm wearing by S Design. You can see it on my walls. Everywhere you go, I am a big beach girl, and I wanted that in my living room. So for me, these sea glass teal lamps were perfect. They popped right out of the page when I was looking at them on Wayfair, and I decided to bring them home. I am in love with these lamps, and honestly, that was the piece that really made me be like, okay, teal is going in here. So as you can see around the room, you're gonna see it in my throw pillows, you're gonna see it in my rug, you're gonna see it in the blanket, you're gonna see it, all around this room is that teal beachy theme. Another key factor you're going to want to consider when you're designing your room is lighting. A lot of contractors, when they're working on either a home or a rental property, are really looking for functionality, right? So they're installing flush mount lighting, they're installing, recessed lighting, which can be great if they make them dimmable, but if they don't, then you're kind of at the mercy of whatever level, lighting they've installed. So sometimes that can be a little bit too bright and harsh and kind of give your room that, bright classroom or office feel. But what you really want is something soft and relaxing. And maybe you're someone that likes your room a little bit brighter, and that's totally fine if you're comfortable with it. But personally, when you walk into a room and you have soft lighting and maybe a candle going and a comfortable blanket, there's something about those things that just makes it feel like home. And for me, that homey factor is all about having really good lighting. Now, the third color with the white was to make sure to bring in like a crisp, clean feel. And it seems to be a really great accent color because it's easy to buy. If I was to look all over, I could probably find a teal table. I could probably find, a teal TV stand. But I didn't want to do that, and I wanted something that would work. So white was used as an accent color in the blanket that I purchased, in the rug that I purchased, in the throw pillows that I purchased, and it just plain made sense for all of the furniture. Now, most people do buy their furniture first before picking accent colors. And honestly, I know it's going to sound crazy, but if you have to start from scratch, right, you have the opportunity, pick out your little pieces first. You're like, what, Emma? That's so crazy. Things have to go around the couch. Things have to center around, the TV stand. And you know what? That's true. The dimensions do need to rule in that case. But if you're going around and you find this throw pillow that you absolutely fall in love with, center your room around it. If you want it in there, center your room around the piece that you love the most. Because if that accent piece is an absolute must in your home, then you don't want to have to wind up in a situation where you're like, oh crap. That's the number one mistake that I see people making is they'll go and they'll pick out like a certain color couch, and then they'll get, these nightstands that they just fell in love with, which are great. Then they'll pick a totally different TV stand, and a coffee table is going to maybe match one thing and maybe not match anything else. And that's going to be your biggest culprit. You can look around and you can change the lamps and you can change the throw pillows, you can change the blankets a million times. But if you start off with that one thing that you're like, this pillow or this blanket or this rug or this painting, this lamp is going to be the center of my room, then you're going to have a really great base to start with. And if you stick with it, then you're going to have a much easier time. Now, that being said, here's the best part about finding a piece of furniture that you love. You can paint it. Maybe you don't want to paint it yourself. Maybe you want to hire somebody to do that. But if you find a piece of furniture that you really and truly love and need to bring home, think about how you can work it into your color scheme and really be committed to that. Because if you decide to bring home 3 different pieces that don't match each other, I'm telling you right now, right away, it's gonna throw the room off, and it's gonna take away that sense of unity that you've been working so hard for. Now, the last thing I wanna touch on here is picking your artwork and making sure that the frames go with the rest of the room. This is a really big deal, guys, and people I think don't always pay attention to that. They'll just take a picture that they love and slap it on the walls and be like, oh well, it goes because the picture itself matches. But the frames are really, really important. So for example, we have this picture of our dog on the beach on Martha's Vineyard. It's our favorite one that we love to go to, and she was running and playing and having a great time, and it was such a happy memory for us that I really wanted to frame it and put it into my living room. But the problem was we didn't have any frames that matched. So honestly, I just ordered this frame from IKEA and put a little starfish in it, and it's worked perfectly. No one's gonna ask you where your picture frames are from, first of all. Secondly, there are a lot of options that can match, and you can go to a million different places to find picture frames. But third, the most important thing is that these frames go with your theme. So if you're picking, teal, white, and beige like us, then you are gonna wanna make sure that your frame goes with that color scheme, and that's really important. I would rather see the walls be blank for a while than just throw stuff up there that didn't match, because if you're working so hard to get those 3 colors in every other aspect of your room, from your curtains to your curtain rod, to your rugs and your throw blankets, your artwork really does matter. And if you mix and match the frames, it's gonna instantly throw off the whole room, and it's gonna drive you crazy trying to figure out why it doesn't look the way you want it to look. And sometimes picture frames are just the secret culprit that no one thinks of because the picture itself matches. That's it, guys. That's my simple secret for making any room in your home come together.